Welcome back. When News Channel 8 launched in 1991, there was no guarantee that we would survive. It was impossible to imagine us becoming one with WJLA, nor the advent of HD TV or live gear that would fit into a backpack. But one could imagine Glenn Harris always being part of the family. Glenn retires at the end of the month, but not before we get a chance to say thanks and recall some wonderful memories.
How you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
I have very mixed feelings. It's great having you here. It is always, I mean, you and I have known each other 2 decades
since
plus.
You walked in the door.
Since I walked in the door. And, you know, to be with, so I'll say something now, I'll get it out of the way. And I always avoid saying things like this, but I'll say it just because of context. One, I listened to you in college. So you were on WHUR. I was just a couple years behind you at Maryland. And I loved local radio and really wanted to get to know as much as I could about D.C., and it became obvious very clear that this guy on HUR, who was always on there talking sports, was really plugged in. And that's the other thing, is that your connection to this town, I was a general assignment reporter for a long time before getting the opportunity to do this, and you were like the person people always mention. You and Channel 8 were one in the public's mind, and I always thought that was huge.
Well, they called me at Channel 8 one time, and they said, you know, let's get this guy a shot, because I had never done TV full time, you know, just some interviews and all that. And let's just bring him on and see what he can talk about. So they brought me over. Well, Wayne Lynch put me in a trick situation. He said, you can come over now and audition, and we'll see what's happening. So when I went over there, oh, there I am. It's unbelievable. That's why I used to wear a tie every day like you did. And he brought me over, and he said, you can come back next week and do an audition if you want to. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come back a week early. And I came back a week early. He said, I'm glad you did, because I would have cut you out.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, you know, we have some people who want to say hi.
Yeah.
And Wayne Lynch, people are getting up early on the West Coast to be part of this discussion. I'm going to let the other guests introduce themselves, but you've mentioned Wayne a couple times. Wayne Lynch was the news director when we launched in 1991. Right. He had the smarts to hire you, but as you know, no one bats 1,000. He hired me too. So Wayne, you don't win them all, but thanks very much for joining the conversation today.
Oh, it's great to be on with you guys. You guys are one of the shining lights of News Channel 8 back in the 90s, and you're still doing it, man. It's so great to talk to you again here from way out on the West Coast. And I think, you know, watch out for the Seahawks and the Redskins. They may actually meet in the playoffs.
Hey, Wayne, thank you for hiring me. It has been an amazing 22 years, so I will always owe a huge debt of gratitude. Huge. I really can't even say how big. To work here has been the best career opportunity I could have ever imagined. So I just want to say publicly, thank you, and thank you. Talk about the man to my left, though, Glenn Harris, why you hired him and what he has represented to this market over, what, 4 to 5 decades?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, you know, when I arrived in Washington in July of '91, my boss, John Hillis, who started News Channel 8, handed me a clipping from the Post and said, you ought to talk to this guy, Glenn Harris. And I said, okay, yeah, looks like he could be a real winner for us, because we were trying to be very close to the community, not like the broadcast affiliates at the time, doing more of the, you know, the breaking news and so forth. We wanted to get very close to the councils and the school boards and things like that. And because Glenn was so connected to sports, we said this is a way to really get in at the neighborhood level, get in with the Redskins and so forth and so on. So, yeah, we did an audition down in Washington, D.C. and downtown, and he said, you know, I had to put a little pressure on him. I was trying to get him to say yes, so I said, you know, if you don't come in here, I don't know what's going to happen. So he came in early, and we did it. And, you know, it's part of the negotiation process, you know, Bruce. And,
sure.
You know, Glenn knows as much about sports in D.C. than anybody. And I got to say to you, you're one of the great political reporters that I've ever known, and I was so happy that you joined us as well. So you guys are on the top of my list. And, Harris, I'll tell you, one of the first pictures I saw of you was with a catcher's mitt somewhere playing baseball, and I said, this guy's going to be on News Channel 8.
You're the typical guy who cannot go to the store and run in, grab something, and you know, pay for it and get out in less than 30 minutes, right? Because everyone knows you, everyone likes you, and everyone wants to talk with you or find out what you thought about the game or whatever, right?
Well, I'm glad I never made any enemies because sometimes when I was married, oh my goodness, I used to go in the store and my wife used to meet me at the door, and 3 wives, as a matter of fact. But this, and they would always say, "You finished yet?" And I would say, "Okay, yeah." But I mean, it was just tough for me to say, "How you doing? I'm leaving now. I got to go." I never could tell anybody no, and that was just the way I was. You know?
And Wayne, you make a great point. When I wasn't, the station launched in '91. I joined in '93, and there was a real determination and probably a need. And John Hillis and you, Wayne, led the push. Because there were already 4 really good stations in town. At the time, a lot of these 24-hour news stations were starting around the country with no necessarily expectation that they would take root, and many of them didn't. We have. But the idea was create something new where there's not only news that's on 24/7, so you don't have to wait for 5, 6, and 11, but news at a different level, right, Wayne, where you're going deeper and where there's a sense of being more connected?
Well, John Hillis, my boss, and your boss, Ten's boss, he coined a phrase called hyper-local. And the whole idea was to have a niche and be different and go to stories that were not going to necessarily make the big affiliates because they had their own agendas, and they were all good, no question about it, great stations. We just had to find our place. We had to find our groove, and the best way to do that was to be totally differentiated from whatever else was on. And so, for example, Glenn would be, really tight with all the high school people, and that made a big difference to us. And yourself, Bruce, you were so wired into Montgomery County and suburban Maryland, and we were looking to cover those kinds of stories, and we needed people like you guys to make a difference. And here we are in 2015. You guys are still kicking, and it's a wonderful tribute. And I've been out here in Seattle running the cable station out here, right. And I tell you, those 2 jobs are the best I've ever had, and it's because of people like you that made a difference.
And let's thank you, Wayne, for those kind words, and let's acknowledge our friends Dave Lucas and Melanie Hastings, who
still hanging.
I mean, who bring a high level of performance to what they do today, and the sort of the benefits of having been here for so long. So, we have about 3 minutes left for this segment, Wayne. You talk about wanting to find someone in the sports area who could really help distinguish our product. Who better to grab onto, so to speak, than a guy who played ball at Howard on a scholarship, who played for the Washington Black Sox, who was really well known, a great athlete, and who made the transition to broadcasting so seamlessly.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I mean, Wayne, he was the best. He just said, "Look, be yourself, do what you got to do," and I brought myself to television because in the radio business I just did, my talk show was everything, and I did my regular sportscast, but that wasn't like the talk show.
Right.
And man, we did that, and that's what really kicked off stuff. I see myself there with a brown beard, with a black beard. That's what color it is.
What's that thing around your neck, though? That's the part I'm the tie. The tie.
Yeah, that's right.
So TV is kind of famous because news directors come and go, and sometimes talent comes and goes. Impossible for either of us, to imagine. The privilege and the good fortune of being able to do something you love this long.
Well, I've never treated anybody bad. I don't think I've made any enemies since I was on the air. I always could talk to somebody afterwards, even in some deep times. I used to do a lot of commentary, and
that's a great point.
That kind of afforded me the ability to talk to people all the time. And I never got anybody's personal business. I don't care what they did in their home life. I wouldn't get into it. Today, it seems like everybody's touching base with everybody's personal life instead of getting into the sport they play.
Hey, Wayne, we have 60 seconds to a hard out. It strikes me that radio is a wonderfully intimate medium. I love radio. And to have Glenn come from radio and really bring an established, intimate relationship with millions of local sports fans was, we couldn't have been more blessed.
That H on your cap there, Glenn, that stands, in my mind, for humble. You're a humble man.
Oh,
you have a big heart. You're always happy, and that H really, to me, says it all. You are a great man. I am so lucky to have been able to meet you, hire you, work with you, and still be your friend to this day. Congratulations. I'm retired now. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Wayne, take care, buddy. I love you. I still have your number, and I will call you sometime.
Hey, Wayne, thank you very much. Words escape me, but thank you for your time, and thanks for taking the chance on both of us. But we're honoring Glenn today. Thank you, Wayne. I'll talk to you again.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
We'll take a break. We're back with much more. Keep it here.
And welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Harris. Thanks for joining us. We featured a number of athletes and